Cool, I think we're live. So, good morning. We are joined here with Troy Norcross, who supports on blockchain business strategy. And we met, Chris and I over here, we met Troy very recently at the blockchain rally at the IOD in London. And Troy, we were really impressed with your presentation and what you're doing, what you're working on in the blockchain space. I just wanted to open it up to you and just ask if you could introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And why should people care?
Yeah, that's great. Really great to be on the program this morning. So nice to see you guys again. Showing up at the IOD rally was really totally random that I was going to be there, let alone that I was going to stand up and wind up doing a pitch. But it is the kind of thing that I do all the time. So my name's Troy Norcross. I am co-founder of a company called Blockchain Rookies, and we work with corporate education and blockchain business strategy. We really believe there's a huge opportunity for businesses to create incremental business value in blockchain, which will drive real blockchain development and projects down the line. But we've got so much work to do in helping people understand what is blockchain in a real, simple, practical term, more than just kind of the cryptocurrency hype.
Yeah, no, that's really, really interesting because my business partner, Patrick, and I, Chris and I have been talking about this as well. There's so much application potential for blockchain to cut cost out of organizations. But unfortunately, the awareness of it is so poor. Why do you think that is? Why do you think so few people are aware of the upside and the benefits of this technology?
Well, up until this point in time, all of the hype has been around cryptocurrencies, whether it was the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of the other kind of main cryptocurrencies. And then we have a bit of a negative legacy associated with Bitcoin being used for illicit purposes, in the dark web, on the Silk Road kind of marketplace where people were using Bitcoin to buy and sell drugs, guns, and other illicit products. And some people were like, okay, that's Bitcoin. And they lump blockchain right in with that. And they kind of dismiss the whole thing kind of out of hand. I think the other thing is more of it's a capitalist mentality. The capitalist mentality says, I need to grow my business. That's the first and foremost, and kind of the constant drive to grow business. Blockchain has great efficiency savings and great cost savings. We've not yet seen a blockchain opportunity to grow top line revenue. And that's why I think it really hasn't broken through into a lot of corporate consciousness. We need blockchain to help them grow their top line. And oh yeah, if I can use it to save money too, that's good, but it's almost a second priority.
And how do you see that? That's really interesting to me, coming from a corporate background. How do you see blockchain helping companies grow their top line? Can you give us some of your secret sauce or your ideas there?
So the first thing that I help people understand is that blockchain isn't for companies. Blockchain is for industries or entire ecosystems. And so companies need to get a strategic mindset shift from competing against everybody in the world and competing within an industry or an ecosystem to a certain level of cooperation or collaboration. And we say when you're going to cooperate with your competition, that's co-opetition. And in order to do that, blockchain is a great platform for co-opetition. And how can you then kind of improve the overall business and overall industry? The IBM Food Trust, which was started initially with Walmart in the US, provides supply chain transparency for food safety. But if you can improve overall consumer satisfaction and consumer confidence in products, you will indeed grow sales. You will indeed grow the market. But it's not just Walmart, because they also allow Carrefour, they allow their biggest competitor Kroger, Nestle, Tyson, Unilever, and it's one of those, a rising tide lifts all boats, and everybody's top line kind of goes up. That's what real blockchain projects can have transformational shifts on businesses.
It's super interesting to me, and I know Chris is going to be interested in your business and how you're getting your name out there, how you're raising more awareness. But before I even get to Chris, I'm sorry, Chris, I have just one other question on this.
No problem.
Because it's super interesting to me. When I think about the rising tide point you've just made, because that's really interesting, and also it really makes this simple for people. What you're talking about is collaboration. You mentioned the capitalist mindset of I need to compete against everyone in my space, the red ocean full of sharks. And you're saying, no, actually, we just need to expand the ocean over here. And what do you think will be the catalyst for these thought leaders, these business leaders who are strategizing for the marketplace? What do you think will be the catalyst to get them to wake up and go, whoa, there's a massive opportunity here. Do you think it's awareness and education, what you're doing, that will trigger that? And is that why you're in this business?
I would love to say that what I'm doing is going to make that strategic shift away from pure competition to co-opetition. I don't think that I'm capable of doing that as much as I would love to be able to do that. What I want to do is I want to kind of enable and empower the innovation leaders and the heads of strategies who are having these thoughts and have said, we'd love to do this, but we don't seem to know how. There isn't a way that we could do that that is commercially safe. And I'm saying, actually, there is a way, and blockchain can be part of that. And so that's kind of where I'm coming in, is saying blockchain is a platform for co-opetition that will enable business models that were not previously even possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading about an example, speaking with my business partner Patrick on this, where the accounting industry is due for a major shift in what's called triple ledger accounting. So for any bean counters like me who are watching this, we're taught double entry, that if there's a transaction here, there has to be one here. But now we're talking about triple ledger, where that transaction is also recorded and stamped on the blockchain for audit purposes. So audit companies are jumping on this, etc. And I think a lot of that is because of survival. They know that if they don't, they could become redundant if companies start transacting completely on the blockchain.
Yeah, so the whole concept of blockchain is removing unnecessary central third parties.
Right.
That's a premise of it. And whether it's a broker or whether it's an unnecessary accounting system, yes, we're going to provide efficiencies by removing unnecessary third parties.
Got it. So I guess what are some of the challenges you're having in raising awareness, bringing this education to the marketplace?
I think a lot of it right now is that capital is kind of, I want to grow my business versus cost savings. So blockchain is not on the agenda as yet. If you are familiar with the Gartner hype cycle, where you go to the top of the hype and you go all the way to the trough of disillusionment before you go to the plateau of productivity. Well, AI has just come out of the trough of disillusionment and is starting to grow. AI is on the agenda. Blockchain is currently plummeting towards the trough of disillusionment. And so they've stopped mentioning it on earnings calls. They've stopped really talking about it. So it's kind of been pulled back. And I would say it's not going to be until really 2020 when it gets back on the agenda and people start putting resource behind it. And what I want to do is be there and be ready, having provided education along the journey. So when they do decide to kind of pick up the mantle and say, okay, we can't ignore this any longer, blockchain's on the agenda, who should we talk to? Those blockchain rookies guys, I can't seem to get away from them. They're in my LinkedIn feed, they're on my Twitter feed, they're showing up in the newspapers, they're on podcasts. Yeah, the blockchain rookies guys are the ones I need to call. That's my strategy.
Super interesting, Chris. I'd be interested to know from your point of view, with somebody who's basically in white space now, because like you said, Troy, blockchain is not on the agenda. What's your view, Chris, of starting to pump out content and basically do work when the market's kind of not there, getting ready for 2020 when it is there? Do you think that's a good strategy?
You know what I'm going to say. You know exactly what I'm going to say.
I know what you're going to say.
Literally the best point in time to be doing it right now, because then you can start putting in the building blocks and the legwork. What you're doing, as Troy said, is effectively he's putting in the place, I guess, the blockchain. The blocks. Now. Yeah, the blocks now. But you're basically, the world is going to come to you, and you've already spent that time building the blocks now. So you're going to be the go-to guy. Gary Vee says this perfectly in one of his talks about, say, Pokemon. No one cared about Pokemon for ages, and you do a blog and no one cares about it, but you keep doing it because you love it. And then all of a sudden Pokemon Go comes out, and you're like the top person to go to because you've been putting in the building blocks before, when the rest of the world didn't care. And yeah, you're basically, I would say this is the best time to start building the content and getting your community together, because the world is going to come back. And I noticed you called it, was it the trough of disillusion? I call it falling off Mount Stupid.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is, I was talking to Sean about this the other day, and it's, it's a really good analogy. I just, completely agree with that. But yeah.
Yeah, I love me some Gary Vee.
Oh man,
he's a master at turning one 20-minute speech into hundreds of pieces of content. And we're trying to do as much of that as we can, but we don't quite have his army of PR people.
Right,
Yeah,
and the
of course,
production
right,
team,
yeah.
etc. Chris
Yeah,
and
the
I have this
production
problem
team.
all the time. Even the videos like this as well. Like, people don't realize this takes time. It takes time to cut
Yes.
it up, to edit, to upload. I don't know about your internet connection speed. Mine's taking ages. Yeah, no, awesome. So, what are the next steps for you now, Troy? What's your immediate focus right now?
All right. So what we have figured out is that it's not on the corporate agenda yet, but we need to be in the corporate mindset. So we are just absolutely caning it with content in a drip feed way. At least once, usually twice a week, something new comes out that is educational in nature. We make for sure all of our content is add value content, not sales content, add value. Inform, educate, enlighten, give insights. In the meantime, there's a huge number of regular Joes and Janes who are desperate to start blockchain businesses. So we're going to start doing one-day courses that are focused around how to build a blockchain business from a clean, simple, practical application perspective. And we're going to offer those as one-day in-person classes. A lot of people want to do kind of video education and things like that, and it just really doesn't work for us. So we're going to do in-person classes, small groups, and really deliver real value interactively and share our experience that way. And in so doing, we're growing the base, the grassroots of serious blockchain projects, as opposed to what came out in 2017 and to a lesser degree in 2018.
In your experience, why do you think it doesn't work in video?
It's not that it doesn't work. I know it's much more effective with me in person. Part of it is me as an educator. I can read the room. I can read the room and I can read what's going on with the individual students. I can change my tack. I can change my approach. I've been lucky enough to do, of course, I just got back from Glasgow, but I was also in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, Mumbai, and in a room full of people who've never heard blockchain and whose jobs will depend on understanding it. I need to be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And also, Chris, like you said before, you've said it to me 1,000 times, nothing replaces human to human interaction as well. So I guess when you're smaller and you're growing, that's potentially some of the best leverage you have. I'm interested in this point about helping blockchain businesses grow, because this was a thought I was having too. If you think about Facebook agencies, so a lot of the work Chris does, when Facebook marketing was still, it was kind of new territory, and people were looking at Facebook marketing like these guys were wizards. Anyone who could do Facebook marketing was like some kind of magician.
Right.
And so these agencies, they just didn't exist. And then they started popping up, and the ones who got there early on, are making 7 figures a month in now doing digital marketing for companies. And I look at blockchain in a very similar light, where when you Google terms for blockchain, like blockchain development agency, the real estate and the SEO and the competition is still very light. Like it's still up for grabs. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Is this what you have in mind for businesses building blockchain? Are we talking about development agencies, like a web development agency? Now we're going to have blockchain development agencies. What's your vision here? I'm curious.
So the blockchain development agencies, the actual coders, there are plenty of them, and they are indeed growing. And they are waiting on what? They're waiting on me to do my work. My work is blockchain business strategy. If I start helping businesses create real business cases, then they're going to need to start building blockchain projects. So I'm trying to do partnerships with these development agencies to say, look, you're trying to sell into an uneducated market. Let me come in front of you, do the education, making the development agency market grow on the back end of that. And so that's the kind of the symbiotic relationship that I'm trying to do. I'll do business strategy, and then I'll hand off to the dev agencies. Now, I have a degree in computer science. I used to write flight simulators for military aircraft.
Wow.
I can get down in the tech and in the guts, which allows me to explain it in simple and easy kind of understand words and ways, which I'll come back to in a minute. But I'm not doing the tech, and I don't want to do the tech. I want to do the business. I want to make a difference. I want to be on the strategy and the innovation. And, I've been in leading edge and or kind of bleeding edge businesses for so long. I've got cuts all over my hands.
Yeah, no, you should have started your speech with that.
We'll do a post edit.
We'll do a post edit.
Well, I mean,
No, that's incredible.
the total story is I grew up on 4,000 acres of farmland with 1,000 head of beef cattle. I was allergic to all of it. And at 12 years old, I went into a computer room and it was bright lights and it was a raised floor, but most importantly, it was clean air. And I knew at 12 years old, I was going to be in computer science. And my first job out of uni was writing flight simulators for military aircraft in St. Louis, Missouri.
That's super cool. We need to do another video just on flight simulators.
We can do that. We can do that. I've got some really great stories.
No, I can imagine. No, for sure. So that's very interesting. I do agree. And I also think that a lot of people are seeing this gap where it's really down to communication. People who can articulate, what the benefits are, not the features, not the technical part, but what are the benefits? Why should you care about blockchain, Mr. CEO or Mr. Data Scientist or whatever? Why should you care about blockchain? And I do think the people that build that network and that trust around articulating that well, yeah, for sure, a lot of business will get referred by you. But it sounds like you don't want to be on the dev side. Is that because there's a lot of complexity when it comes to actual project execution? It's a lot of drain on time, and you just want to focus on bringing that business in? Or what is the reason you don't want to do dev?
It's not that I don't want to do dev. It's the project time. A dev project can be 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. I want something new. I'm a bright and shiny object guy. Let me dive in. Let me work for a month. Let me give you something really amazing. And let me go from pharmaceutical to supply chain logistics, and from supply chain logistics to aerospace. And I'm constantly kind of growing the market verticals, and I'm constantly being challenged with new projects. I always say I like to fix things and I like to start things. Other people are better at kind of running things.
Actually, can we have a flight sim story?
Right. Okay, so if you have to think back to when I was doing this, which was 1987, 1988, and 1989. I am in a secure facility in McDonnell Douglas. These are 30-foot radius domes. You've got a projector that's covering the entire inside of the dome. On your helmet, you have indeed a GPS sensor that's doing this. So as you look up and to the left, there's a high resolution camera that flies around and gives you, wherever you're looking, a high definition view of that out the window scenario. But the really fun thing is you're wearing a suit. And when you pull back and you pull G's, the suit inflates with air and creates artificial G forces. And there's nothing like actually pulling G's in a virtual sim.
That's crazy.
Really crazy stuff.
Wow. And that was like every day of the week.
The thing is, everybody was telling me, you got to be doing Atari, you got to be doing Nintendo. And I'm like, why would I do that on a television with the Atari and Nintendo? I'm going to flip a 30-foot dome with high resolution and pressure suits. and as a result, I never got into video games. I'm like, I work in the world's biggest video game all day, every day.
I think you've got it wrong. I think you need to combine the two. I think video games, we need to bring, Chris, this is an idea for you because you love gaming. We need to bring high pressure suits to video gaming, man.
That would be crazy. How would it, could you do it in any sort of space sim? So let alone just flight sim, but actually in space.
You can go from multiple G's to 0 G's. You're in takeoff. You can do all kinds of crazy things.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually this could be a good idea. Those family day outs or buyagift.com or whatever. You buy people these gifts where they can turn up in these flight sims. There's a business idea right there, Troy. I think you need to drop the blockchain and focus on high G. Yeah, no, 100%.
Right. I have two things that I just want to do because it's the most important part of what I do. And that is describe what is blockchain. So people always want to know what is blockchain. And I say, you start off in your mind with an Excel sheet. Every row in an Excel sheet is a transaction. It has a transaction ID, a timestamp, an origin, a destination, and a units of value transferred, whether that's bales of cotton or Bitcoin. A group of rows forms a block. In Excel, we have the concept of protected cells. I can put a password on those cells, meaning I can still see them, but I can no longer change them. And passwords are a form of cryptography. I get another group of rows, another block, and just before I password protect the second block, I include the password from the first block creating a chain of blocks. I'm now going to take the Excel sheet and share it with thousands and thousands of people. When we decide about transactions, we all look at our copy of the Excel sheet. If somebody's had a computer failure and their copy is corrupt, or some clever clogs has hacked their copy and given themselves more Bitcoin than they should have, they will not agree. Their copy of the Excel sheet will not agree with the rest of us thousands, and they will be excluded from that consensus decision. Some Excel sheets have small pieces of code in them called macros that run in the contents of the Excel sheet. Some blockchains have small pieces of code that use them and run on the blockchain, and those are called smart contracts. So if you think of blockchain as an Excel sheet with rows grouped together into blocks that are password protected, shared with thousands of people, sometimes using macros, you have a really simple basis for understanding what is blockchain.
I can't tell you how many finance nerds like me are in my network who are going to love that explanation. Because
that was amazing. That like completely blew the doors open for me, because I'm still learning everything about it, and that just completely,
yeah,
it was crystal clear.
I could see it on your face. I was watching you as he was talking, Chris.
I was like, thinking really hard. Like, I was like,
yeah, I could see. I've never seen you that still in a video, before.
Yeah, it was great.
So the other thing is, people ask me at every party I go to, at every meeting I go to, how much money should I invest in cryptocurrency? And the answer is the 3-day Vegas rule. How much money would you spend on airlines, hotels, and at the roulette table on a 3-day jolly to Vegas? Because the fact is, you're going to meet some really crazy people. You're going to have a really great time. You're probably going to lose it all, but you might win big. So when somebody asks, how much do I invest in crypto? It's the 3-day Vegas rule.
Yeah.
And the second part of that is buying a token through an initial coin offering or a security token offering, an STO, is, and wait for it, like buying a poker chip for a casino that hasn't been built by people that you don't know, who don't have a license to sell chips or to run a casino in a neighborhood that doesn't gamble, hoping to sell the chip for more than you paid for it before the casino opens. And that's what you do when you buy an ICO.
And this is why people say it's the Wild West. I'm like, you have no idea. Like,
the internet's the Wild West, man, just in general, right? That's more intense. So you could enhance, and the way that you would enhance the power of that chip before the place is built is to have a strong, reliable community of people who all buy in the chips and want to invest in that one casino that hasn't been built.
So that's a different buyer, and that's a different example. And in that example, have you ever been to an American laundromat?
No.
An American laundromat has a machine on the wall in which you put a dollar bill in, and it spits out little tokens that can only be used in the washers and dryers in that specific laundromat. And when you're investing in a project and you're investing in a laundromat, you definitely need a community that has lots of dirty clothes, and everyone is pre-buying washers and dryer usage by those tokens. And that's when it actually increases in value. That's a utility token, and you're actually buying real future value for a project, as opposed to just taking a punt and trying to sell it before somebody else.
Okay, cool. More of a guarantee slow burn as opposed to like a one-shot sort of luck. Okay.
Correct. That's my view, how I separate those two.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
I've learned so much. I've learned so much already. That's incredible.
I mean, Troy, you clearly know how to do your job. You clearly know, like, the way you're breaking it down so that everyone can understand it, I think is so important, because it's not, I think people get lost in the terminology of cryptography and hashtags, not hashtags,
hashing
algorithms, etc. Sorry, I'm on internet, social media. Yeah, hashtags, hashing social media algorithms. I've got lost already, but you obviously have a way of making this really, really understandable, which is super cool, because I think it's exactly what's needed on the whole token design, token economics, etc. I'm of the belief system that in 30 years from now, entire economies are going to be tokenized. Real estate, information, like an economy is just information. It's just information recorded on a ledger. Who owns what, who owes what to who, etc. But right now, I feel like what's more important is what you were saying. The blockchain companies that are going to win are going to be the initiatives that are solving the problem of dirty laundry. How much dirty laundry do you have? In other words, it's the technologies that are going to solve problems, not disrupt industries. And I don't think we're seeing, I could think of 10 that are really solving problems right now. Like right now, they're successful and they've got traction. I could think of 10, but there really aren't that many out there. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you pushed me, I can come up with 4. So the fact that you can come up with 10 that you think are actually solving a real problem and getting traction is quite good. But my ones like TradeLens, which is coming from Maersk, or the IBM Food Trust coming from Walmart, or Tracer coming from De Beers, or BITA, which is a multi-transport thing running in the US. They are such huge projects. They take a lot of time. Small kind of projects, maybe you're talking about decentralized apps or dApps. There's a few dApps that are around that are doing things, but they're startups. They're just startups that happen to be using blockchain. They need a customer acquisition strategy. They need a customer engagement strategy. They need a retention strategy. And if it's built on blockchain, that's kind of a secondary bit. There's still a startup that needs fundamental business elements, and that's what people keep missing. And until you're solving a real problem that happens to use blockchain, it's not relevant.
Yeah, I also want to say as well that even though we say problem solving, problems for each of these different types of businesses are completely different, and it's kind of like the underlying problem. So as you were saying earlier, it's about that capitalist agenda versus actual doing good for everyone else. And it's kind of like what business would find, I don't know, who would want to make more money versus who wants to actually make a change in the world. And those are two separate problems, but it's who's kind of like prioritizing.
I've lost you guys. Chris?
Oh,
Chris,
hi.
Go again, Chris.
It just doesn't like you at all.
No, clearly. Yeah, is Sean there?
I'm here, buddy. I'm just laughing.
Oh, right. Okay.
You're back.
Did I cut out?
I have no idea.
Okay. Never mind.
Ask the question
No,
again.
no. Go again, because you were talking about people that want to change the world versus people that just want to make money.
Yeah, and as Troy was saying, it's as we're saying, problem solving is to every person it's different. And I guess I was just trying to say is, what's the difference if you're saying you've only found a few people that can solve a problem? What problem? Is it a problem to make more money for that business, or is it a problem that is a genuine problem in the world that needs to be fixed through blockchain?
Well, so the one example that I happen to quite like, and it's not as popular as it once was, is CryptoKitties. I mean, CryptoKitties was an interesting approach. It was built on blockchain using something called a non-fungible token. Yeah. It's a digital Beanie Baby, cats and cattributes and trading and exchange. It was a very interesting problem to move the physical world of collectibles into the digital space. That was interesting. In the process, they nearly crashed the Ethereum network and nearly collapsed a couple of ICOs that were running at the same time. So but that's a different thing.
Well, that's what happens if you have Tamagotchi mate with Pokemon. That's what you should expect. Disaster.
Have we heard the distributed file system for blockchain is the interplanetary file system, the IPFS? I'm actually not making that up.
Wow.
So they were really designing it for long latency communication between the Earth and Mars.
Really?
Wow.
So that was the basis for designing the IPFS.
I know about the IPFS, but I had no idea that that's its background.
Yeah, that's the background. Is that what they were trying to do was to create a file system that would support communications between the Earth and Mars.
I just have this vision of Elon Musk sitting there coding up this blockchain,
Or like you got, was it Curiosity? Was it Rover who was on Mars?
The Mars rover, yes.
Yeah. So, maybe Rover was using it. I don't know. Maybe they found the problem through Rover.
Well, who knows? But the rover can have access to the blockchain, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. And another interesting case study I came across is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sophia, the robot, the humanoid robot that we've developed who speaks and holds a conversation with you?
I've not.
Okay, you need to binge watch more on YouTube. You're not binge watching enough on AI. But Sophia, this robot, essentially, the people that have developed this incredibly complex humanoid AI robot are using blockchain to store their machine learning models and the information, their AI on the blockchain. And the vision is basically to connect, using the blockchain, lots of different AI models so that they can connect and work together. They can, so that one robot here is basically talking to the cloud, except it's not the cloud, it's blockchain. And I was watching this and I was thinking, this is already happening. Like they've already developed, and the company is called Singularity Net. And the guy who's developed these robots is literally a mad scientist. I mean, you watch this guy and you're like, you are literally a mad scientist in the real form.
We need mad scientists in this world.
We do. We do. This is true. But it's interesting because I'm very interested in the application of AI and machine learning. This is something, you know, I've been going through like 5 separate courses now on it. I find it fascinating. And one of the things I really think we have an inherent difficulty with in blockchain is the consensus algorithm. So
consensus. I just wrote something on consensus yesterday.
Did you? We'll talk about that because maybe you'll save me talking about my idea. Go for it.
Well, no, tell me your question first, and then I'll make sure that I put that in the answer.
Well, I think, you know, the consensus algorithm is, it's not, you know, blockchain is not hack proof. Like we have threats like a 51% attack, etc.
For some blockchains.
Some blockchain, and not all blockchains. We call it all blockchain. Some of them aren't even blockchain. I mean, you have things like Tangle, etc., which are different.
Which are part of the larger category DLT, distributed ledger
technology. Right. So, you know, so to me, that's very interesting. But I was wondering, is there a way to have AI authenticate transactions on the blockchain?
So right now we're using cryptographic, you know, public and private keys to sign individual transactions. And that's the way that works today. Adding an AI layer to that, you probably can. I think that's going to become more interesting in 5 years' time when quantum computing comes out, because quantum computing will indeed be able to crack a lot of the existing cryptography. So we're going to need to add another layer. I mean, in the UK, they've already required that they start designing quantum resistant blockchains. And if you used AI as part of the, are you really you when you sign a transaction before you write it into the blockchain, that's an interesting kind of twist to it.
Okay, so I've been asked this question. I know, I love quantum physics. I don't know enough about quantum computing other than an atom can be in 2 states at once and therefore can compute a heck of a lot more with less to it, I guess. Can you explain a little bit on the quantum computing side, how this is a huge risk to cryptography?
So the power of quantum computers being multiple orders of magnitude over where we are today is indeed where the risk lies. Because right now, just brute force computing can't attack the existing cryptography in a timely fashion. The new power of quantum computing, you know, is much more likely to be able to do that. There are only a few quantum cores even in existence, and not commercially viable ones or commercially available ones. There's some at Google, especially a few in a dark room that nobody talks about, and a few at IBM. If you want to have some fun, go onto YouTube, put in Justin Trudeau quantum computing. So the Prime Minister of Canada has an explanation of quantum computing, and he just nails it completely, utterly off the cuff. Today's computing is all based on states of 0, off, 1, on. Where quantum computing, you can have everything in between 0 and 1, and because you can have the infinite number of possibilities of those individual states, your power of computing goes up by that same multiple. So it's really a beautiful explanation.
Yeah, that's what do you make of this, Chris? What do you?
I'm going to go on YouTube after this call. Yeah,
dude, you'll love it. You'll love it.
That sounds insane. So it's in literally the computer's off and then it's on, and this is breaking down. It reminds and everything in between those 2 points.
All the states in between.
Right? Have you seen Event Horizon?
Yes.
Long time ago.
And they go through that kind of they bend space and go through the
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that, but hopefully it's not as grim and horrific. But
what do you mean, like with someone's arm just randomly flopping around on a spaceship?
No. You know where it goes? It goes, the space is here, and then it goes through, is it like a warp system, whatever, and then it comes out the other end. And I imagined quantum computing to be that bit in between, but obviously not as horrific.
It's interesting. Yeah. The world of quantum physics to me is fascinating. It's like, I think it could have been Richard Feynman who said, if you think you know quantum physics, you don't know quantum physics. It doesn't operate anything like the classical physics where this mug, for example, is separate to me.
Right.
And things exist in probability. So this atom, for example, or this particle can be in two different states or anywhere between at once. And it's a probability wave of where it is. And there's all sorts of things like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, etc., which means you can't know a particle's position and its momentum at the same time. Like it just, I'm not going to go into it, but the point is that it works nothing like how we have seen the world work since we were kids. And therefore it's totally counterintuitive. There are experiments that they can predict with 100% accuracy in quantum mechanics that we still have no idea why they behave the way they do. There's experiments where we observe the outcome is different to if we don't observe it.
The process of observing changes the outcome.
The process of observing changes the outcome. That is very well said.
Man.
Troy, I feel like you need to write a dictionary, like a book of like complex words for dummies in emerging tech. I will, you know what? I'll be your first customer, and I will steal all the information. Like I will be like, this is it. We're gonna do videos on this book.
That's a value hook right there. I'm already thinking marketing terms. Yeah.
The thing is, guys, and I really appreciate the compliment, and I work bloody hard to get these things. But what you don't see are the 999 times I explain it so badly it's a car crash.
We're seeing the tip of the iceberg, aren't we?
Well, what you're seeing is the well-rehearsed, refined, I know it works kind of versions.
Yeah.
But there's been a whole bunch of others that were just terrible to get to this point.
No, it's brilliant. And I think it's absolutely what people need. I mean, I've really enjoyed the conversation. In fact, Troy, next time you're in London at an event, we should all meet up. Actually, that would be really nice.
Would love to. Would love to.
Yeah. Well, how can people get in touch with you is the question, because you clearly know a lot, and a lot of people might want in their organizations, etc., somebody to help educate and raise awareness so that people can understand this stuff. How do they find you, man?
Great. So our website is www.blockchainrookies.com. We're on Twitter at IGetBlockchain. You can reach me personally at Troy_Norcross on Twitter, and you can find us on LinkedIn as well. So happy to have anybody kind of come along, reach out, ask me questions. You drop a question into Twitter, drop a question into LinkedIn. Say, Troy, can you give me a simple explanation for X? And let me have a go at it. I'd love to.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for being here today, and I hope we can do a lot more sessions with you. Really appreciate it.
I would love to come back on the show. Nice to see you both.
Thank you.
You too, man. Take care.